College life is a period where students grapple with a multitude of physical and emotional challenges. The distinction of these challenges become even more tricky when considering the appearance of psychological distress among college students. The American College Health Association, also known as the ACHA, reported in 2022 that this distress affects an alarming 77% of college students, with 8 out of 10 experiencing the impact. The negatives of psychological distress extend across academic performance, mental health, and interpersonal relationships, creating a web of difficulties for students. The academic environment often puts pressure on students, demanding the timely submission of assignments, pursuit of top grades, and hours dedicated to homework. This academic stress becomes a significant contributor to the overall toll on students' well being. The consequences of this distress are common, prompting many students to actively seek support and resources to navigate these challenges effectively. Adding to that, the increase of distance learning, a trend that rose because of quarantine, the isolation brought challenges of limited social interaction, social connections, an important aspect of college experience. These experiences are restricted in the virtual environment, adding an additional layer of complexity to overall student experience. Motivated by our own encounters with psychological distress during our college journeys, our group decided to pursue this topic. Sharing our first-hand experiences not only adds a personal touch to our assignment, but also adds authenticity and reliability to our information. As members of the distance learning community, we are able to speak firsthand of the struggles of distance learning. Our goal is not only to acknowledge the challenges, but also to contribute to the solutions surrounding mental health in college. Creating a supportive environment for students facing similar issues is our goal.
My name is Jacob Rodriguez, and as a theater major, my experience differs from the more standard college experience. While more academically intensive majors have a much greater share of the stress, I still find myself struggling to keep up with the work schedule. I put my career focus on the back burner time and time again to ensure I stay caught up with the required courses for graduation, and even then, I wind up getting lost and missing on assignments due to high expenses, tough workloads, and responsibility changes that I have yet to adjust to. First year students have it the hardest, diving headfirst into the overly stressful next step in their lives. Our interviewee, Jonathan Mebane, details how the typical college workload can outweigh most outside aspects of life.
I'd say yeah, just because like the classes that I signed up for, the workload was a lot more than I thought. So then like trying to balance having a job with also having school, it's something new to me and I don't feel like I'm really getting a good grasp of it yet.
With faster deadlines and greater expectancies to handle a copious amount of homework across the board, students like Jonathan experience higher amounts of stress trying to keep up. It must also be considered that these students most likely have jobs, bills, and further responsibilities that they must now take care of. These problematic factors pile on one another until they become impossible to ignore, frequently interfering with essential activities, as Jonathan shares.
Um, I feel like I'm less inclined to do like my basic things. Like sometimes I'll forget to eat because I'm like working on an assignment for a couple of hours and then I'm just so tired from working I go to sleep and then like the next day I'm like, oh snap, I forgot to eat.
We must also take in the fact how these challenges impact our personal relationships. There are many instances which students must skip out on family events in order to keep up with their assignments. And inevitably, these issues also extend to our friendships, preventing longtime friends from spending time with one another like they used to, often leading to them drifting apart and rarely ever speaking again. So it comes as no surprise as to why high levels of psychological distress have been reported by students.
According to research, concurrent anxiety and depression can strengthen the association between depression and poor grade point averages. Dropping out of school has also been connected to depression for many reasons, including the fact that usually during depression, most people feel less motivated to do things. Now, many college students have stated that their academic performance is compromised by their mental health concerns. And according to the Monitor on Psychology website written in 2022, during the 2020 to 2021 school year, more than 60% of college students met the criteria for at least one mental health problem. And in a 2021 study, nearly half the people that were surveyed had reported recent symptoms of anxiety and depression, and 10% of those people had said that they felt their mental health needs were not being met. And though majority of campuses offer the following mental basic health services, like outreach, consultation, resources for referrals, emergency crisis interventions, prevention of suicide and violence, and counseling, these things don't always help because some people will feel embarrassed about going to people for these issues, because not only them putting themselves down, but it's also because some people around them will be telling them, like, there's nothing wrong with you, you're fine. And as a person that has been through that, it just makes you not want to ask for help. And I think a way that people could help these people that are struggling with these issues would be to do these things publicly, like inviting someone to give a motivational speech or something, so that people will feel less singled out about things. And another thing could be like opening a texting line for counselors and students, so that people can talk to them privately without having to walk through the halls to go and tell somebody about it. And according to a Taylor and Francis website written in 2020, mindfulness-based practices along with art therapy techniques have been demonstrated to improve the psychological and physiological impacts of stress and anxiety among college students. So I believe that another thing that could be done would be to make artistic classes a requirement, such as like music classes, a drama class, drawing, painting, things like that. And the reason for this idea is that most people will express themselves in artistic ways. And you can also look at the things these people create when they're in these classes and get a grasp of how they're doing mentally. And since they express themselves that way, that'll be the easiest way to get a grasp. However, I do think that these classes shouldn't be like required for the entire year. So maybe like 2 weeks, maybe these classes should be like requirement, so that people can kind of get a feel for how they're doing. The downside to these artistic classes being a requirement is that it would cost about $60,000 a year. For the art supplies for like drawing and things like that, you'd need like pencils and things like that, markers, whatever else that would be needed. You also need canvases for like painting, and then if you're doing music classes, there's also the need for instruments, which themselves each would cost around $450 to about $5,000. So it would cost some money for that. So that is our idea for how we should help people with mental health issues.
Overall, college students commonly will experience some sort of psychological distress, encompassing a spectrum of many emotional and physical challenges. The pressures of academic expectations, financial constraints, and social demands will often contribute to the heightened stress, anxiety, and depression among all students. The transition to college life brings newfound independence alongside increased responsibilities, causing a strain in which we call emotional strain. The overall toll of psychological distress on students manifest physically through disrupted sleep patterns, changes in appetites, fatigue, and other somatic symptoms. Emotionally, many students may struggle with mood swings, feeling of inadequacy, loneliness, and decreased self-esteem. These challenges underscore the significance in which addressing mental health concerns with the college environment. Students can navigate these issues by seeking support from any available mental health resources on campus. Practicing self-care, maintaining a healthy relationship, and establishing a balance between academic pursuits and students' personal well-being. It is very crucial for educational institutions to prioritize mental health awareness, foster a supportive community, and provide accessible counseling services to ensure students receive any necessary support in managing and overcoming any sort of psychological distress. Ultimately, this is a great topic in which many students can relate and seek guidance that is needed. Seeking support from any sort of mental health profession or professional, engaging in self-care practices, maintain social connections, and help those develop a healthy coping mechanism. These are essential strategies for managing and alleviating psychological distress.